Hello everyone. So today we're going to take a look at time-based SQLi, or also known as time-based SQL injection. So what is it? The most important aspect of time-based SQL injection is delay versus no delay. If there is a delay on your query after you add the payload, then it is vulnerable. If there is no delay, then it is not vulnerable. Let me demonstrate that, what the concept is when it comes to delay or no delay. But most important aspect, most of the time, the SQL payload that you use to test this is called sleep, and basically what it does is actually it delays the next instruction by the amount of seconds that you add in here. You can add 5, you can add 10, depending on how you want to do it. So your request would probably respond after the delay that you added. You're basically adding a delay on the query, so it won't respond for that level of time that you supplied in here. And you obviously you would concatenate this with end inside the SQL query, and assuming it is actually vulnerable to SQL injection, obviously, right? There might be an input validation that would not allow you to actually inject any kind of SQL statements, like maybe sleep 5 and obviously single quote to add or concatenate your new SQL statement. So we were assuming all that, and obviously there might be a way to exploit this vulnerability. So let's go ahead and take a look at it using our vulnerable application is PinewoodStore. And I've mentioned this a few weeks ago. I created a new portal as part of the main application. It's called Suppliers. It's Pinewood Suppliers, and it does have a database. So let's start off, and I'm actually currently on a browser, on a Burp Suite browser, so everything that I'm typing here is going to go to Burp Suite traffic. So if I go back to proxy, I cleaned it up already, but it should go here. So let's start here. I'm going to log in. Use another account. Alright, it's logged in. So if we take a look in here, and this is gonna be alright, this is a request that we want. It basically has a SQL. This is the request that would actually run the query in the backend. So let me go ahead and send it to a repeater, and obviously once you repeat it, I'm going to send it a couple of times, that way if I need to change anything, right? So let's start off from this. So obviously the most important aspect, the first thing you need to try to visualize, kind of like estimate, is it right away when you don't have any payload, and which is the case here, right? And I send it probably like 1 second, maybe a second and a half or something. So the next thing is this vulnerable. So I'm gonna go ahead and come up here, and this is what we can do. As always, you're gonna add your single quotation mark here and concatenate, add your new SQL statement using end, and add sleep. Let's put 6 seconds, and never forget the comment. Alright, so now when I send this, and I just want to show you this in logs as well, so I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. When I send this, if it gets delayed by, let's say, 6 seconds, then obviously this database or the application is vulnerable to time-based SQL injection. And after that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what we can do to, or an attacker can do. In this case, you obviously have to imagine yourself being an attacker, right? That's the best way to defend. So let's go ahead and send it, and as you can see, clear delayed showing in here. The response is not coming back. Eventually came back and gave you 302. So we do have a delay in here. So what can we do with this? Obviously, okay, it is vulnerable to time-based SQL injection, and we can actually add our own SQL statement in here, which is what I added, and sleep 6. And also, if you see here, there is not an error. Basically, this is what it runs in the back end. Select all from suppliers where username is equals to the username that I supplied, and sleep, and password is equals to password. So this is a SQL statement. It's not going to have any syntax error, so that's the reason why it ran, and you don't have any issues. So what can we do with this? Obviously, this is not going to be useful by itself, right? We need to supply some kind of payload. So what we can do is, let me go to the notes editor, and I'm going to show you something. So we can add a statement like this. What does the statement, how do we construct it? Obviously, the dash dash is a comment, but the most important aspect of it is, let's say you're a supplier and you were trying to get an email from the suppliers table of another user you don't know about. So what you can do in a situation like this is actually, you start off with the obvious SQL statement, select email from suppliers limit 1. So what we're going to do, we're going to iterate to each email and try to guess each character of the email. Now this could be, obviously, since this is a request, it could be automated. I'm just explaining how this attack would kind of take place. The blind SQLi. And you can automate this and make it go faster, so you don't have to obviously guess one character at a time manually, which is probably going to take you longer because it's an email and people can put a lot of characters. Depending on how the email, what characters are allowed in an email, right? Some emails, how the email client is set up. If they just use letters and maybe no numbers, then you might be able to guess it just doing one at a time. But even that is just going to take a long time because the combination, right? It's a combination of letters. Even letters is just going to be, and it depends on how long your email is, right? If it's just something like John at random.com or something small, maybe you can do it. But most of the time, that's not the case, right? It's probably going to have a longer characters, but that could be automated easy because this is actually a request, right? Once you figure out what the issue is, you can use Python and automate it, and you just need to construct the first request. Then all you have to do is just you find. Most of the time, Python is the best thing. I've never tried to use. The intruder might be possible. Like I said, you got to play around with it. But if you need to send a request multiple times, you need to use some kind of. There's also turbo intruder, but there's also extensions for Burp Suite that you might be able to use, and I'm sure some of those extensions can actually automate this. But the best thing is Python can actually automate this since it's actually a request. You can send the request and had it. You can also kind of slow down the request, so if they have some kind of web application firewall, it doesn't block your IP. But in any case, this is what you would add instead of the end sleep dash dash. What does this do? So the first thing is, like I said, select email from suppliers limit 1. So if you select email from suppliers, obviously the suppliers table is going to have multiple emails. So you want to iterate through each email. That's the reason why limit 1 is here. It's just going to bring back one email address. And I can show you that in here as well. The easiest way to show you is, since I have the database in here. My database is 2. So select email from suppliers limits 1. So let me clear this off. And basically what it's going to do is going to bring one email at a time, because if you don't add the limit 1, you can't iterate through one email at a time, because it's going to bring all the emails in. So if I do this, and as you can see here, it brings up one email from that database, the first email. Now after doing that, obviously we're going to have to find a way, start from the first character and try to guess all the characters. So what we can do is, obviously we can use a substring. A substring is basically, what it does is you supply it a string and the location of or you can think of this as an array in mathematics, a one-dimensional array where you have multiple values and one rows and multiple columns. So these are actually what they show the location, the row and column location. For A, this is going to be 1 1. For B, it's going to be 1 2. For C, 1 3. It will go on like that. So the first thing you want to do, obviously, you want to guess the first character. So you're going to use that. And the next thing to look at is, obviously this is you trying to guess by supplying some kind of conditional statement, right? So you're going to use what's called if condition, conditional statement, or if condition that has a conditional statement. And in addition to that, you would use it is actually a program term, like if you used any kind of, if you use, let's say, Java or JavaScript, you heard of it multiple times, or maybe it's called ternary operator. Basically what it does is it's the same thing as if condition, right? If condition, what it does is checks a condition. If it is true, it would execute something, and you can also add else. But this is actually a shorthand of that. What it does is one statement, give you a condition, and we separate it with comma, true and false. What that means is, if this condition is true, it would execute this. If this condition is false, it would execute this. So this is what you use in here. If you notice here, the if condition, substring, these two values are basically what you see here, sleep 5 and 0, pertain to what would happen if the condition is true, what would happen if the condition is false. So you're basically doing the same thing that you did with sleep 5. So basically you're telling it if the condition is true, if the first letter. So what this does is, now obviously after explaining this, let me go ahead and construct it the easiest way, right? The easiest way to construct it is you're going to start off from the if condition, right? The if condition, this is the one that we want to do. So if I were to, after explaining this, it would be easy to construct it. So this is a condition. So you need some kind of conditional statement in here. And the conditional statement is the substring from the email, the first email that you selected. If the first letter equals A, because we like I talked about here, 1 1 means the first letter, which signifies the first letter of in the first column. So it equals A. This could be used as a condition. That's the reason why you see it. You see this part of it inside here. So this would replace condition. And the rest is obviously this what you see. If it is true, delay the processing of the next instruction by 5 seconds. If it is false, 0. This is 0, it means it's the same thing as sleep. Zeros is not going to be any delay. So basically that's how you construct it. So the basic construct is actually this one. If condition, execute if it's true, execute if it's false, and the condition would be the substring. If the substring, you select the email and the substring, the first letter equals A, then that would be the condition. Understand what the statement is, we can start using it. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy it and go back to my repeater. this is what we have. So I'm gonna add it here. Single quote, space, space, and you're gonna add and the statement. So let's make sure that's the case. So you add a single statement, you and then there is quote and comment in here, so I think it should work. Let's go ahead and check it. I'm going to go ahead and clear this out in here so we can see if I don't get any syntax errors. And also the most important aspect of it, what I'm checking here, like I said, it selects an email, one email from the suppliers table, limit, because it does say limit 1, and it's trying to guess the first character of the email. And if it is equals to A, there's going to be delay of 5 seconds. If it is not equals to A, because this would be, we process this, there's not going to be any delay. So this would process right away and you'll see 302. In any case, you shouldn't get any error messages if the injection is working correctly. But the guess, because there is a possibility the first letter might not be A, right? So that's as long as we don't get any SQL errors, we can keep guessing. And also, like I said, this is a request that you can automate using Python. So let's go ahead and send it. As you can see, 302. And also, if I see here, there is no error. And the other thing we can prove that it is actually working is, let's say we know the first letter is A. So if the first letter is A, it can't be B, right? So let me go ahead and substitute this as B. So if I send this, then I'm still not going to get any error messages, but you'll see the response comes back right away because it would process this and there's not going to be sleep 5 this time. It's going to be 0. So let me go ahead and send it. As you can see here, it came back right away. And also, if you look in here, there's not a syntax error in here. So that's how attackers would use actually blind SQLi, also called blind SQL injection, to guess different fields. It could be even, it could also be password. As long as you manipulate the SQL query here, you can make it. Obviously, it needs to be. You need to have some kind of information on what tables there are and in the back end, and also what kind of fields there are. Like, it helps a whole lot when an attacker tries to exploit this kind of vulnerability. They already have some kind of information, right? So, but basically that's what is blind SQLi injection is. That's how attackers are able to, without exfiltrating data, they can guess some parts of the data, right? This obviously could be, like I said, automated since this is a request. So yeah, an attacker wouldn't technically doesn't have to do this over and over again. Once he constructs the query, he can automate it and make a request, and obviously you can create in Python, you can create a loop and had it iterate through the different letters of the alphabet and also the cases, right? Sometimes, well, this is the email, the case might not matter. Most email clients would not matter. Yeah, so but it can iterate through different letters and guess all the email addresses or multiple email addresses from the suppliers table. All right, thank you for listening. That's all I have for today.